Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Attack the Baseline, a WNBA podcast where every episode we attack our baseline knowledge of the WNBA. We're your hosts, John and Kristen Barber, here, another week of the W. We're excited. We got more stuff to talk about, but before we get into that, Kristen, how's it going today?
It's been a great day. It's been a great weekend. It's been an amazing weekend of basketball. I'm very excited to talk about it. About all the games, about some records that were broken. And we did a deep dive into a player that I'm very excited to share. So.
Yes, so we're going to talk all about that. If you're new to the podcast, if this is your first time listening, like I said up front, every week Kristen and I have been building our knowledge as new WNBA fans. We've been spotlighting a team week by week as the regular season has progressed. This week, it's the New York Liberty. We did a guest spot with a friend of our pod, Matt, who's a New York native and works at Bleacher Report, to talk a little bit about the team and the league, and get a little bit into the sports betting side of the W, which is a conversation that we had not had before. So that's kind of interesting. Look forward to that later on in the episode. If you'd like to reach out, you can send us an email, attackthebaseline@gmail.com. And also, if you're enjoying the show, go ahead and leave a 5-star rating and review on whatever platform that you listen to. But top of the mind, we do have a heat check for this week's episode. It was noted to us by Coach, who's our Connecticut Sun fan from a few weeks ago, that for the All-Star game, the coach would not be Teresa Weatherspoon, as Kristen had originally thought it might be, but it actually defers to the coach with the highest win percentage at the break. So in this case, we know that Sandy Brondello, who's the head coach of the Liberty, would be the head coach of the Australian Olympic team.
She is, yeah.
Right. But she would probably be the coach of the All-Stars in this case.
Yeah, right.
And the Olympic coach would be...
That's Cheryl Reese.
Oh, that's Cheryl Reeve, who's the Minnesota Lynx head coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in highest likelihood, we expect to see Sandy Brondello coaching the All-Stars right before she goes and coaches the Australian national team. But just wanted to clear that up because that's not something that I necessarily know, even though that's exactly what they do with the NBA.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, that's how Doc Rivers was able to coach for the Milwaukee Bucks, or who took the Milwaukee Bucks job and coached the All-Star game, even though while he was coach of the Milwaukee Bucks before the break, he had a terrible record that wasn't even over 500. So crazy how that can happen. But yes, the coach with the highest win percentage is the one who gets the job. So look forward to the All-Star game on July 20th and the events preceding it, the skills comp and the 3-point comp on the 19th. So that's the heat check for this week's episode. And now we've got a pretty empty slate of news, as in there's no news.
No, not much news. I mean, Nafisa, it seemed like she got hurt in their game on Thursday, but she should be fine for the Olympics.
Thank goodness.
So not much there.
So we didn't lose another Olympian.
No,
Still don't know who's replacing Ryan Howard.
No. Like, when are they going to figure that out?
You kind of got to do it, guys. You kind of got to make a call.
Yeah, it's coming up.
It's going to be Alicia Gray, but
We'll see. But yeah, that's really it in terms of like player news. But there's a lot of team news, interesting things that's happened with teams, and records that were broken this week.
Yeah, why not? I'll let you go into that.
Okay. Well, I think this weekend was particularly exciting for the W because starting on Friday and going into Saturday, basically every underdog won their game.
Really?
The Fever beat the Liberty.
Big win.
The Sky beat the Storm. The Sparks beat the Aces.
Okay.
And Dallas beat Atlanta. That's less so.
Correct.
But still,
Sparks beating the Aces is as big of an underdog
Insane.
win as possible.
Yes.
Well, I mean, the Fever have played much better basketball as of late. So, and if I recall, that was their fourth game playing the Liberty.
Yes.
And they were in Indiana.
Yes.
So if you're gonna win one of the four, it makes sense that you'd win the last one.
Right.
It's really hard to get the season sweep on a team.
Yeah. The one where the Liberty is probably the least invested in the game and you're probably the most invested. So
Right.
yeah, it makes sense.
Right. That was also a big game for other storylines.
Yeah, in that game, Caitlin got the first ever rookie triple-double.
First ever rookie triple-double. Seems pretty surprising. And I know I said last week on the podcast, after she missed it by one rebound in the previous game or two games before that,
Yeah.
I said, she's going to get it. And sure enough, she got it this week.
Yeah.
So
It does honestly seem surprising, especially historically, that no rookie has had a triple-double.
Well, they like to point out in these broadcasts how rare, I say in quotes, that a double-double with assists and points occurs. So they get there are plenty of double-doubles of points and rebounds, which we'll talk about in a second. But it just seems to be difficult for players in the league to get to double-digit assists in a game. I mean, I'm unaware of if a player's ever averaged double-digit assists in a season. I don't think that threshold's ever been met, from what I recall. But it's just interesting that, assists are a pretty, rarer commodity. So, usually it takes you a little while to develop that part of your game. But Caitlin, it's like she's already been so good at it.
Yeah.
And Kristen and I had a conversation about that the other day. I think Caitlin's passing is her prime skill. People think about the shooting, the range. I think her ability to pass the ball is like what makes her who she is. So it makes sense that she would be the one to accomplish this if no one had that exact passing skill when they were rookie.
Yeah, no, especially being on a better team than when she was in Iowa.
Right.
She's not taking every shot, so she's not going to be the top scorer.
Right.
But she can be the top assists leader on the team.
But she has a ton of opportunity.
And they have really gelled. She's really, I think, developed a good relationship with Aaliyah Boston.
Yep.
So
It was always going to be that.
Yeah.
Can they make it work?
it took a little bit.
They made it work.
They made it work.
Yep. And now they're going to be an interesting team come playoff time if they're sitting in that 7 spot, or that if they can crawl up to 6, they could be.
Because they beat the Mercury last time they played them, who are 6th.
Yeah.
So they actually have a rematch on
Yeah, as we're recording this on Monday.
this coming Friday, the 12th. They
Yeah.
have a rematch with Phoenix, so that's going to be a really big game to see
one to
if
watch.
they can beat them again. So that was a very exciting game, and we're very happy for Caitlin.
Yes.
And I think it fuels the fire of the Rookie of the Year debate.
Yes.
We did talk about this in our interview with Matt, so stick around and listen to more of the betting aspect of it.
And just conversation in general about what it means for the league.
Yeah.
This 2-horse race between Angel and Caitlin.
Because also this weekend,
Another big one.
Angel surpassed Candace Parker to have the most consecutive double-doubles of any player. Period.
And last week she had broken the single season consecutive record.
Yep.
But now she breaks Candace's of finishing a season with 9 and then starting a season with 3.
Yeah.
So, it's crazy. I really thought earlier, like 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, that Asia was on like a 25-10 streak of like 15 games. So when I started to find out that, Angel is approaching like 10 double doubles, I'm like, didn't Asia Wilson like have this? But no, I was wrong.
Yeah. You would think other players would have it.
I agree.
They don't.
Some of these goats, but
Yeah.
Angel Reese, she's changing the conversation.
I know. And So on Friday, I will venture to say Friday was one of the most exciting nights of basketball that I've watched, rivaling day one of March Madness, perhaps.
Woo!
It was having the Sky Storm game on at the same time as the Sparks and Liberty game was like so intense. I was like, what game do I watch right now? Both underdogs are winning. I want to see if this is a game Angel tied the record. I was like, I need to see if Angel ties this record. I was going back and forth between the games.
Yep.
It was very fun. And you were like going to sleep next to me.
I was a sleepy guy. Look. Following the W, we're going to need a second monitor. We're going to need to do the 2-screen setup.
Yeah.
We're going to need to split screen some of these League Pass games because there's so much good hoops to consume, and I'm glad we get all these replays, but like...
They didn't need to put those games on at the exact same time.
No.
Like, why were they at halftime at the exact same time? Give me, like, some variation.
Schedule better.
At least the Aces-Sparks game went into overtime.
Correct. So you got to see that.
So I got to see the overtime. Yeah. But the app was sucking.
Yeah.
Okay, yesterday the app sucked. And it just, like, is so slow. It always lags. It, like, crashed yesterday during the second Storm Sky game. So that's annoying. They got to figure it out.
WNBA, fix your app. Please.
So that's really around the league.
Yeah, that's a look around the league. Kristen hinted at it. But we do want to give special attention to another player that had a milestone this week. And one who is one of the greats left in the league, who we have yet to really talk about outside of noting that they were on a roster. Yeah. One, Tina Charles of the Atlanta Dream. Tina Charles this week passed Tamika Catchings in the all-time scoring leaderboard. So she is now third all-time in points of any player ever. She is she's only 90 points behind Tina Thompson for second all-time.
So she'll get there.
And then she's like 3,000 points behind DT, who is probably never going to surrender that, at least in the near future. Maybe someone like Asia will challenge that eventually.
Asia and Stewie, I think, can challenge that.
Correct.
No, but at least by the end of the season, Tina Charles will be second all-time in points.
Correct. Unless, and here's an interesting... now looking at the numbers as I'm digging into Tina Charles a little bit, obviously we know Dewana Bonner became the fifth all-time leading scorer when she passed that threshold after an assist from her fiance, Alyssa Thomas. She's only 164 points behind Tina Charles. So if Tina Charles misses, 10 games, in theory, Dewana Bonner, who averages around 16-ish points, could make up the ground, and Dewana Bonner could be the second leading scorer all time.
Sure.
There is a universe where that happens. You would expect at least Dewana to jump up to third if she continues to stay healthy. And, as far as I can tell, it doesn't look like she's on her way out of the league. I know she's she's an unrestricted free agent after the season. So I don't know what the plans are, depending on how Connecticut goes. But there's a shakeup here at the top of the all-time point leaders. And again, to bring it back to Tina Charles, she's jumping up the leaderboard here.
So perhaps she'll be outed. She'll hold the number 2 spot, at least for a little bit, I think. But perhaps she'll be outed in points. I don't think she will be outed in all-time rebounds. Did you look at that?
I don't have that.
She is firmly number 2 in all-time rebounds. Behind Sylvia Fowles, I think.
Okay. Firmly, like considerable lead.
Like Dewana is 900 behind her rebounds.
Okay.
And nobody else.
Dewana's 3.
No, she's like 11.
Oh, okay.
Nobody else in between them is playing anymore.
Angel Reese is gonna. Whee!
Oh yeah, and I think Angel will pass her in years to come.
That's like that is a jump. Angel is a rookie.
But I don't care. I'll say that.
Sure.
Bet on that.
I don't think you can do that. All-time rebounder, Angel Reese.
And she actually is only 191 rebounds from first place spot. So she has to play the rest of this season and like probably a little bit of next season. And she'll be first in rebounds all time.
Well, chance is there then. Mm-hmm. We'll see.
But she is going to be number 2 in points and is number 2 in rebounds. She has been so good.
And we just didn't talk about her, which is a disservice of us to our audience because we want to learn with you and we want to provide information.
Yeah.
Like, for those of us who don't know much about Tina, just to highlight a couple more things about her pretty historic career. She's an 8-time All-Star. Mm-hmm. She was the first overall pick in 2010, and she won the MVP in 2012.
Yeah, well,
she's a legit
notes.
Superstar. And Kristen's got notes that we're going to go through before we get into our guest spot about the Liberty.
Yeah, I'll try to make it quick.
Tina's Corner.
But like, really, I did a deep dive into Tina Charles today, every team she's been on, why, like, she has no championships. I firmly believe she is the best player to never win.
Not Becky Hammond.
No. She's more points and more assists and more rebounds.
Well, talk to me about her history.
Okay.
Where'd she start?
It's a series of unfortunate events for Tina Charles.
Oh no, not a series of unfortunate events.
And it's honestly heartbreaking. It's breaking my heart today.
As a lemony snicket.
Yeah. Okay. So, yes, Tina Charles was drafted in 2010, first overall, to the Connecticut Sun. Mm-hmm. She won Rookie of the Year.
Oh, okay.
There was nobody really else.
Well.
So she won.
Right.
She was on the Sun for 3 more years.
Okay.
In 2011, she was second in MVP voting.
In 2011, so the season before she went.
Her second year playing, she's already like almost an MVP.
Sure.
Her third year, 2012, she wins MVP.
Okay.
And in both of those years, the Sun had the number 1 record. They were first in standings, but they lost in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Now, the Sun coach was Mike Thibault.
Yes.
During that time.
Yes, the Washington Mystics coach right now? Yeah.
I think.
Oh, no, that's Eric
Thibault. His son.
That's Eric Thibault.
But he was the Mystics coach.
Yeah.
But they apparently like had a really good relationship with each other. She loved having him as her coach in Connecticut.
Got it.
Well, I guess Connecticut management didn't like him that he couldn't win. So they basically outed him.
See ya.
And he went to the Mystics.
Okay.
So they have a new coach. They have a new coach in 2013. And they ended 10-24.
Yikes.
Not good.
So just bad coaching now.
Yeah. So she's like, I've already been the MVP. I've only been here 4 years. I've already been the MVP.
Right.
I will just want to win a championship, basically.
Understood.
She's from New York. She says in 2014, I'm going to sit until you trade me to New York.
Wow. Player empowerment in the player empowerment era is right around there in the NBA and in the NFL. So she takes a note out of that playbook.
Yeah.
Sits. Interesting.
Yeah. So they trade her. They trade her before the season.
Okay.
But it shocked everybody. Nobody saw that coming, that they traded her. They actually traded her for Alyssa Thomas, which is interesting.
Oh, that's a cool what if. Now
Yeah,
Alyssa Thomas is like, the Connecticut Sun player.
So 2014, she starts on the Liberty. She's on the Liberty until 2019, so for a while.
Okay.
2015, she was third MVP. 2016 and 17, she's second MVP again.
Wow.
She has been almost MVP in the MVP conversation
4 or 5 times.
7 years in a row.
Wow.
Basically.
Wow.
And those 3 years, 15, 16, 17, they make the playoffs and they lose. They just haven't had success in the playoffs. 2018, the Liberty was owned by whoever the owner is of the Knicks and Rangers, MSG.
Dolan.
I guess.
Yeah.
They played at Madison Square Garden, the Liberty.
Yeah.
He basically says, you guys are not bringing in enough money. We could sell out the stadium if like anybody else comes here. So you have to move somewhere else.
And there's another reason why he's one of the worst owners to ever own a sport franchise.
So the owner sucks.
Yep.
And basically forces the team to move an hour plus into the suburbs. Half as many seats in the stadium. Like, destroys the whole mentality of the team.
Right.
No fans come anymore. Ugh. The vibes are just like way down the drain.
A real restart for the Liberty.
Yeah, so the next 2 seasons, the Liberty have losing records. Completely like kills their momentum.
Ugh.
In the meantime, in Washington, where Mike Thibault is, he is going to the championships.
Oh, with who?
Oh, with Elena Deladon. In 2018,
Go ahead.
2018,
Yep.
he goes to the finals, loses in the finals.
Right.
2019, they win the championship, the Mystics.
There we go.
So she's like,
I gotta go to Washington.
She's like, I'm on this horrible team now. We play in a horrible stadium. Now we're not winning.
Yeah.
I want to win.
Yeah.
And I want to be with my previous coach that I liked.
Let me win.
So she's traded to the Mystics in 2020.
Yep.
Right after they won. 2020, we all know,
COVID.
sucked.
Yep.
She has very bad asthma. So I don't know if like a doctor told her you shouldn't play, but she was medically excused for the 2020 season.
Makes sense.
She didn't play.
Makes sense.
Elena Deladon also didn't play in 2020. She opted out because she had back surgery.
Yep.
So neither one of them played.
And what
But
happens?
they still made the playoffs.
That's true. That's true.
So I think if both of them were there,
Yep.
they could have repeated
Yep.
easily
Yep.
in 2020.
COVID ruins another thing.
So COVID, that sucked. 2021, she comes back.
Yep.
She has her career high 23 points per game, leads the league in points per game. After 11 years of being in the league,
Yeah.
she's still leading the league in points. She's 5th in MVP voting in 2021.
Yeah.
But Elena Deladon only plays 3 games the whole season.
Deli.
So she's like, I'm here alone now.
I gotta get out of here.
I can't play if Elena Deladon's never here. We're not going to win.
And now?
So,
And then she moves 2 more times. 3 more times.
So this is what it said online happened. Washington says that they're unable to make a competitive offer to her
Okay.
after re-signing Misha Hines-Allen.
Okay.
What does that mean?
Sorry, we don't have enough money.
Oh, we needed a Misha Hines-Allen actually instead of
No,
you.
it's a Paul George situation. Paul
No.
George, they couldn't make a good offer to him. Well, they could have, but they didn't want to.
So what actually happened, I think,
Yeah.
is she's like, I can't play here anymore.
Right.
I need to win.
Right. I gotta get out of here.
So she actually takes a $70,000 pay cut, which is like essentially half her salary at this point, to go play in Phoenix. With Diana Taurasi,
Yep.
Brittany Griner,
Yep.
and Skylar Diggins-Smith. Okay, so this is 2022.
Yep. What happens in 2022?
Everyone's saying this is a super team. This is the best team the W's ever had.
Yep.
They're going to win.
And sure enough,
What happens in 2022?
BG.
Brittany Griner is stuck in Russia.
Brutal.
So she can't play.
Brutal.
Brittany Griner's not there. Apparently there's beef between Diana Taurasi and Skylar Diggins-Smith because they're like getting in fights in the middle of games. So they start the season 6-12.
Yeah.
She plays 18 games for them. And she's like, this sucks.
I gotta get out of here.
We're not winning. I can't win if Brittany Griner's not here and 2 of my other teammates hate each other.
So I want to go.
I gotta go.
Somewhere else.
Yeah.
Where's she going this time?
So her and the Mercury agree to a contract divorce.
Okay.
And she becomes a free agent in the middle of the season.
A buyout. Yep.
So then 3 days later, she signs with the Storm,
The Storm. Okay.
who have Sue Bird,
Yep.
Jewel Lloyd,
Yep.
and Brianna Stewart
Yep.
at this point. So now everyone's
That's even
like,
more super of a team.
they're gonna win.
Yep.
And all three of them had been on like Olympic teams together with her, with Tina Charles. So they like had great rapport. She seems to be like really close with Sue Bird.
Okay.
They went to the same high school and college.
That's cool.
Her and Sue Bird. So everyone was like, wow, this is going to be great. They ended 22-14, but they lost in the second round to the Aces.
Yeah.
And basically at this point, like the entire media, all the fans are blaming her, saying you disrupted the energy of the team.
Yeah.
You forced your way on this team into the starting lineup when you shouldn't have been. It's your fault we lost in the playoffs. Even though, like, I looked at her playoff numbers and they're fine. Like, they're, like, a little worse than previous years. But
Right.
you have Brianna Stewart and Sue Bird on your team. You're not supposed to be the number one scorer.
Well, I would think that she would think that she's supposed to be the number one scorer, considering she's like the fifth all-time leading scorer at this point, or the fourth.
Sure. Yeah,
So she probably thinks it's her right.
fine. Perhaps. So everyone blames her. She was, I think, crushed after that.
Yep.
She like didn't come to any like post game interviews or press or anything, and like basically just like ghosted everybody.
2023 comes around.
She's a free agent. 2023. Nobody signs her.
Nobody.
She like
Nah,
because her reputation is like
Crazy.
ruined.
just like Taylor.
She's been on these crazy teams that like other stuff keeps going wrong.
Yeah.
That she can't control.
Yep.
And it's like, well, maybe you should stay on a team for the whole year, but like, sorry, I'm trying to win.
Yeah.
So, nobody signs her in 2023. 2024, she gets a call from her previous teammate, Tanisha Wright from the Liberty, who's now the coach for Atlanta.
Yeah.
So now she plays for the Dream.
And the
at
Dreams
this
are so-so.
point, right, it's like, well, you're probably not going to win with the Dream.
Traitor.
I don't know.
That's a crazy story.
It's so sad to me. It's so sad.
I mean, to an extent,
It's so sad for her.
a couple of them were her own choice, but then other things were way outside of her control.
Yeah.
So, like, that's crazy.
Like, you are so good. Yeah, I've done everything else. I've been on the Olympics. I've been an All-Star. I've been an MVP. I've been a Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
I won a ring.
Yep.
Can't get it.
Well, you never know. Maybe 2025, she ends up somewhere where she can be
Well, it's like, where's she going to go? She's not going back to the Liberty. She's not going back
to
to
Connecticut.
the Connecticut. She's not going back to Seattle. She's not
Yeah.
going back to the Mercury.
Yeah, these bridges are burned.
Right. It
Oh,
sucks.
The sad tale of Tina Charles.
If she can stick, she's 35.
Yeah.
If she can stick around until 2025 and
Yeah.
things get reshuffled, then maybe she can have a chance. But that's Tina Charles.
A real sobering look at one of the WNBA's biggest superstar players that you may not know too much about. Now you know
Now you know.
a heck of a lot about.
Now you can root for her or not. Maybe you don't like her. Oh, since 2013, she's donated her full salary to a charity.
I'll let her cook. Since 2013?
Yes!
Oh, okay. Then get this woman a ring.
I hate it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's just the right way to end this week's look around the league and look at a very important player in the WNBA, and to move on to talk a little bit about the Liberty with our friend Matt. So look forward to that, and we'll be right back. And joining us today, we have from New York, a member of Bleacher Report and friend of the pod, Matt, here to talk a little bit about Liberty and all other good stuff going on in the WNBA. Matt, welcome to Attack the Baseline. How's it going, bud?
It's going well. It's a pleasure to be here. Long overdue to join the show. We've been talking about this for a while. I'm glad we can get it going today.
Yeah, totally excited to have you. We get your takes outside of, and in between recordings, and we know you have a lot to say. about the W, and we're excited to hear it. So let's get into it loosely. I mentioned you're at Bleacher Report. Why don't you give our audience a little idea about what you do there and what maybe the coverage of the W is like at the company? I'm curious.
So the coverage of the WNBA Bleacher Report is so interesting because obviously as a league rights holder to the NBA, you'd think that, the WNBA, a strategic partner of the NBA in every facet of the game, we'd have rights, but we don't. Despite the games being aired on NBA TV, which is an outlet still run by TNT Sports and WBD as a whole, we don't have digital and social media rights to the WNBA, so we still have to play within the sandbox of we have to wait for teams to post highlights or ESPN or Ion or any of the league's partners, and then share that with credit to them. So it is interesting in that aspect, but the coverage of the W at Bleacher Report is obviously been on an upwards trend since the storylines of this past season. I can say as someone who admittedly has really ramped up my WNBA knowledge in the last 12 to 24 months, watching the game grow to where it is now, it's been really exciting to see. It's been a fun journey for myself, and I know for many others, both at the company and outside. We see, in the comment sections and fans and everything like that, the game is really growing, and I think it's a good time to have shows like yours. It's a great time to get involved with the game, and you were talking before. You mentioned how I give you my takes offline. I know that's why it's a good thing I'm on today, because you guys are sick of hearing them. But it is true. You get a lot of people, like myself and others out there that have really ramped up their interest in the sport and in the league in the last, like I said, 12 to 24 months, and it's been a blast to cover both at Bleacher Report and be a fan of. So
Nice, very nice. That is pretty crazy that you don't get the rights. And I remember you telling me that, but like to the extent that you just have to kind of wait and see whatever's posted and then use what's there instead of having that ability to just go and post whatever highlights you want, seems pretty wild to me. I'm curious if something like that could that change with like a CBA decision, or is it like never really going to be, a chance that Bleacher Report could get those rights, or is it just like out of the realm of possibility?
it could change. Obviously the industry is, ever so fluid. We're seeing right now with the NBA TV deal that's up and still up in the air between NBC and TNT Sports and Amazon and all their partners. Right now, obviously the WNBA signed that big contract with Ion going into this year, surely helped by the emergence of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and all those superstars that have joined the league now in the draft. Obviously, their TV rights package came in at a big number, a record number for the WNBA with CBS and Ion and all their league partners. But again, it's a fluid industry. These things can change, overnight. Going into the next CBA negotiation or whenever those TV rights are up with Ion and CBS and ESPN, you can get an opportunity for those rights to come up again. Who knows what happens with WBD or TNT Sports in the NBA, but those are, separate entities as far as that's concerned. And there might be a future out there where Bleacher Report is full-fledged a league partner of the WNBA, or, our women's sports portfolio brand, Highlight Her, which has, done excellent things in the industry and is continuing to cover the game, in great ways. Despite that, I'd call it I'd call it a handicap in not being able to have those rights, but I think they cover the game, fantastically, and the National Bleacher Report account does, and so you never know, right? You never say never with these things. It's a crazy industry, and what is fact one day could be fiction the next. We saw it with the NBA. We're seeing it with a lot of college basketball rights and everything. As these leagues get more and more popular, right? The rights take off, and these numbers keep getting thrown around bigger and bigger, and it's obviously it's something we'll surely touch upon later on in the episode, but as the league TV deals go up, contracts go up, and salary caps go up, and it's a trickle up thing for the league, which is really good to see. So hopefully one day we get there with Bleacher Report and many more league partners. Look at the NFL and the NBA; they have 4, 5, 6 different league TV rights partners. So hopefully this upward ascent for the WNBA puts them in that position. 5, 6 years down the line.
Yeah, and I don't know how long contracts and deals are generally, but I definitely think after this year the W, they have to have more TV deals. There's still so few games that are broadcast nationally.
Right.
So it'll change, I'm sure. But I guess looking closer into the W, the players, the games, what have been some of your highlights and takeaways so far this season?
Obviously it's going to be a common answer, and I'm sure many others have been on the show have given you the same, but we're talking about the largest influx of young, exciting superstar talent that the WNBA has seen in a very, very long time. I mean, the personalities in the game have been fantastic, whether it's Angel Reese or Caitlin Clark or so many other girls out there, and I quote them because really that's the flavor of the month. It's the flavor of the year, right? They are the two superstars that have joined this game. They were rivals at the college level. They continue that rivalry now. We see it between the Indiana Fever and the Chicago Sky. And I think that, we've talked about this a lot off air. I think it's the best thing for the sport, right? Is, because we, in the media industry, right, like you're always competing for eyes. You're competing for market share, viewership, and everything like that. And storyline in sport is such a big part of it. We see rivalries, in the NBA or the NFL or MLB or anything like that. And, such player personality driven storylines, whether it's rivalries between two off the court or, trades and signings in the draft. Like, you have two superstars that have joined the league at such a perfect time, to grab that eye in an Olympic year, nonetheless, right? Like, in an Olympic year where there's been a lot of controversy about who's been on and left off the Olympic roster, but it has been such a perfect time to watch two budding superstars. And, shame what happened to Cameron Brink, right? Because she was another one that was getting a lot of media attention, tears her ACL. You wish for her to have a very speedy recovery and be back next year. And hopefully she joins that mix. Obviously Paige is going to be in the league next year. So I think it's a very simple answer, but the answer I give you, the most exciting thing for me this season has been watching the emergence of two names now that are the future Diana Taurasi, the future, Brittany Griner when she was in her prime. Like, so many women that have came and went in this sport, they are the next up now, and it's exciting to watch.
Yeah, I would venture to say the future Asia Wilson, Brianna Stewart.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, right.
I wouldn't say rivalry between them, but competitive nature.
Sure. Like the top dogs.
Yeah.
Like it's so fascinating because everyone has sort of assumed that was going to be the case with Caitlin. But then I think there was just like an optimism with Angel. But until we really saw, her breaking this Candace Parker double-double streak, it sort of became more of a reality that like she's going to be a mainstay in the league. And it's going to generate a lot of attention because there will always be, I don't know how many times they play each other a year,
4, I think.
4 times a year where you're going to get Angel versus Caitlin, or, 4 times plus, with playoffs and whatnot. They could always have matchups. And people are going to be wanting to check that out because they're both, young, energetic, athletic. They should be due for long franchises or long careers in their respective franchises. So definitely exciting thing to see. So you're from New York. Let's talk a little bit about the Liberty. Best start they've had in 20 games. Their entire team history, 17-3. They just dropped the game the other night to go 17-4. To Caitlin, which, yes, Caitlin's first triple-double, which is the first by a rookie. Interesting moment to have that happen. An interesting time for us to be following the Liberty. But have you had any early takeaways about New York? Could New York be due for a championship through this New York Liberty team?
Well, yeah, I think that's been the theme of the season. All off season, they kept their core together. They added key pieces in free agency, and ultimately the goal was to get back to where they were in that WNBA championship against the Aces, where obviously they fell short last season. And the Aces are a great team, and you see it a lot in every sport. Like I've been a firm believer, regardless of competition, not even just sport, but competition in general. You have to learn how to lose before you can learn to win, and that's a long-standing quote of Wayne Gretzky, one of the greatest to ever play, hockey, is you have to learn to lose to learn how to win. And having that Liberty team experience, and the girls that they have on that roster, right? Like Brianna Stewart and all those, players on that team that have been there and have seen what Sabrina Ionescu, seeing that and going through that experience where they get to the championship against the Aces, a fantastic run organization, do everything right, they play the game right. You lose that, you go into the offseason, you say, okay, we saw what it takes to be a championship caliber team in this league. So you build the depth in the lineup, you come back next year, everybody's healthy, everybody's ready to go, and like you said, 17-3, they're starting off fantastic, and I think it's a season of redemption for them. They know now what it takes to get to that top of the pedestal and be there, and I think that they're well on their way to doing it, right? Like, there's nothing that they've shown yet this season on paper or really on film that doesn't make you think that this team is going to be right back where they were last season, if not in a better position to win the WNBA championship.
Yeah, and I will say something, that story of redemption, I will, so what, 2 weeks ago, we did the Commissioner's Cup, the Liberty were there against the Lynx, and they were trying to defend that title, the Commissioner Cup title, but they lost that game to the Lynx, which I do think, to your point, was good for them to, I think they kind of came into this game not expecting the Lynx to really put up that big of a fight, and losing, I think, opened their eyes a little bit, because actually the next game they played on July 2nd was against the Lynx again, which is just funny how that worked out with the scheduling. I guess schedulers didn't think that would be the matchup. And they came out so hot in that game and crushed the Lynx in that game. And like, I think they were in there they said, we can't lose to them again. We're beating them this game. Right. And they did.
And this one counted toward the regular season, so it helps them.
And it's also a little adversity facing, right? Like, it's a long season. No one's going undefeated. It's a hard game. You play the same teams, frequently, especially in your division, in your conference. Like, so it is very hard to go undefeated all season long. So you're going to face that adversity at some point. But if you're a team like the Liberty, right, who got a taste of what it takes to be a championship caliber team last year, you come back this year, you start about as hot as you could start, because again, no one goes undefeated, so you're 17-3, you're pretty damn close to being up there, and you lose that Commissioner's Cup championship game, trying to defend that title. Hey, it takes a mountain, it takes a village. It's a lot to win a championship at any level of any sport. They're experiencing it. And you could see, they're firing on all cylinders right now. They're playing great team basketball. We started off the pod talking about two superstars that are emerging in this league, in Caitlin and Angel. But then you got Sabrina, you got Brianna, you got so many great, talented players on this Liberty roster. And really, it's playing out exactly how we thought the season would play out based on what we saw last year, right? Like, we're having these emerging superstars, but here we are again talking about, the Eastern Conference representative in the WNBA championship back in front, and, the Aces doing fantastic out west. So the better teams, the cream is rising to the top, as they say, and that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, true. I will say one particular player that I just wanted to highlight was Jonquel Jones. I think they played the Lynx 3 times this year, one being the Commissioner's Cup that doesn't count towards their stats, but I will count it as they played them.
Sure.
In the first 2 matchups with the Lynx, Jonquel, the first game had 4 points. The second game, Commissioner's Cup, she had 3 points. This game against the Lynx, she had 21 points. She had 12 rebounds. She was like, I'm figuring it out this game. And she did. And I don't know if that is, we just have to get going. We start, when you play against the teams for the first couple times, you don't know what it takes. But having Jonquel step up in that game, I think really made the difference.
Right. Yeah. And you said it. You said it good there too, because Matt talks about Sabrina and we talk about Brianna, and they're these mainstays. Jonquel's been an all-star. The team is particularly deep, but I do notice that in certain games where they tend to struggle, or these games that they've lost, are those games where Jonquel doesn't get going. And it's like this third star mentality because they are a super team. They're, they put it together and it's worked and they've benefited off of that. But like they got to build that up, and then Sabrina can go do as she wants to and shoot the shots that she likes to take. And Brianna is just so, stalwart in her role of anchoring the defense and drawing these double, triple teams, passing out, making shots off her back foot. They are an incredibly impressive group of players that, like you said, Matt, work together really well. Courtney Vandersloot is a perfect like connecting passer to play their point guard. And I do believe that, as long as they stick to understanding that game plan of get Jonquel hers and make sure that Sabrina doesn't shoot them out of a game, because in the most recent game that they lost, she was 2 for 13 or 2 for 14. Sometimes she can have her off nights. Then they should have all the firepower they need to bring home a championship, which, like you said, that's the story of the season so far. The cream is rising to the top.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a team that's built to win now, right? You talk about Jonquel Jones. She's 30. She's almost at 300 career games. Playing for 8 years. Comes over from Connecticut last season, right? Like so you have a talented player there that has worked in a system in Connecticut that has had success at the top of the league, since she's came in 2016. And you talk about Courtney, who is a 13-year veteran and over 400 games to her name. So like you're supplementing your all-star talent, the Brianna Stewarts, the Sabrina Ionescu's of the world, with veteran leadership who have seen success, seen losses, and been on teams that haven't been good, been on teams that have been very good, have shown, as you mentioned in Jonquel's case, another all-star to add to that lineup who has that experience of being at the top of her game. So while they might be considered past their prime in the prime age window of like, hey, you're hitting your peak as a player when you're 27, 28 years old, they may be on the wrong side of that. But what they maybe are starting to go on the other side of the hill in terms of athleticism and not, they're bringing to the table in those intangibles and leadership and, have faced the adversity and have that acumen to teach those young girls and those superstars, hey, when we're not, like you said, John, when we're not on our game, you have other options to work the offense around. You have other options. And so I think that's, again, to sum up their season, it's really been one of, they are built to win now. They have the veterans. They're deep as they've really been in a really long time, and now's the chance to go for it, and they're doing it, right? And until we get to that point where they're back in the WNBA championship, hopefully, no reason to doubt them right now.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
This is just my opinion. I am torn right now after being a fan of the Liberty, and we've kind of been fans of the Liberty for 2 weeks now, because we were going to do it last week, then they didn't even play, so it's kind of been 2 weeks.
Right.
Going into the season, I was rooting for the Aces, because a three-peat is fun, and I love the players on that team. But now, watching the Liberty, I'm kind of like, they kind of deserve it.
Oh.
I might want them to win.
And that helps, certain New York roots that you could...
it would also fuel me as a New Yorker. We could go to a parade.
That's true.
If they won.
That's true. And, if we're going to go see a game live, it's going to be a Liberty game because that's the easiest one for us to get to. But, I mean, it is certainly a possibility. And I would like to segue in. I have to imagine, Matt, you are an avid sports bettor. You are good at
Degenerate would probably be a better adjective, but that's fine too.
I didn't want to say that. I have to imagine that the Liberty are the odds-on favorites right now to win the championship. Am I correct in that?
You are not.
The Aces then.
Not friend of the program, FanDuel Sportsbook, because we don't do free ads here.
No free ads.
No free ads. But if you want to sponsor us, FanDuel, by all means,
sure.
we're open.
Yes.
We'll take your call. We're not going to say no. But no, Las Vegas is plus 170 and the leader in the clubhouse to win the WNBA championship, the Liberty being right behind them at plus 180, and then Minnesota is plus 700. So this is really, as far as Vegas is concerned, this is a 2-horse race again. And we're talking about a plus 170 favorite and a plus 180 second favorite. So this is really anybody's race at this point. But it's clear that us as fans, us as analysts of the game, and then Vegas as well has identified this as we're gonna be back where we were last year at some point.
Yeah, most likely. Wow, that's really close.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess whoever makes these bets, makes these lines, like the Aces haven't been doing the best so far this season, but I guess, you just believe that they will start.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder where they were a month ago.
Oh, yeah, worse.
These odds are always shifting.
Oh, yeah.
When they were losing.
Right.
I'm sure there might have been a chance. Now, of course, Vegas has won however many in a row, and that
not
probably
anymore.
Well, they lost one in there.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that's shifted that number back to where I'm sure Vegas expects it because
Well, there's a championship.
Vegas.
There's a championship bias built
Yeah.
into odds, right? Like obviously the Liberty have the better record and they've started hotter, but like you mentioned, Vegas is starting to pick it up now, and as they slowly get back to where they were, there's a little bit of bias in their favor in the fact that we've seen them win a championship, right? So kind of hard to count them out when we've seen them have a ton of success, whether they've started slow or started hot. Hard to bet against the defending and reigning champ. So that's why they're getting the slight buff there in the odds. But I mean, I myself might be a little biased, and there might be a little financial support going the way of our New York Liberty.
Ooh.
But again, anyway, it's any way you want to look at it. Case in point being, there's no secret who the best teams are in this league, and we're starting to see, after what's been a crazy start, you've seen, the Mystics not start well. You've seen the Connecticut Sun start as good as they possibly could. So, as things are starting to stabilize and that variance hits over, what are we approaching? 22, 23 games for each team right at this point. We're starting, like I said, again, the theme being the cream rising to the top. Like we're starting to see, the good teams over time start to stabilize themselves and get good, and the teams that we didn't expect as much from and that maybe have started surprising, they're falling back to 500 or even worse at this point.
Yeah. Why don't you take us around the landscape as you understand it of like how is sports betting shifted now that you have this influx of viewership? I'm sure, I mean, obviously you're not going to know specific numbers, but you may have noticed some trends just in your time since this season has started. Like, are there hot bets? Are there things that people are putting a lot of attention on? Maybe some interesting awards that are looking good, like one way or another. Any things that you've noticed?
So, I think the most interesting bet, wager, whatever you want to call it, for me, market is the word I should use, is probably the Rookie of the Year race. Because you'd look on paper and if you just looked at it based on media coverage and everything like that, you'd say Caitlin Clark is a runaway to win Rookie of the Year, right? And as I pull up the odds here on FanDuel, I'll tell you right now, Caitlin Clark, while the favorite, Angel Reese is a great value at plus 400. I mean, we're talking about...
I might take that. I might tell John to bet that for me.
Yeah, place that bet because, again, on a popularity contest alone, and this is not meant to be a shot at anyone. I know there's a lot of shade that gets thrown around on Twitter by some in Chicago, but I'm not going to do that. And it's not a popularity contest. Ultimately, it's an award that's given out based on merit on the court. But we're talking about Angel Reese, who just broke a long-standing double-double rookie record from Candace Parker. Caitlin Clark has been fantastic, and rightfully so, is a minus 700 favorite.
Oh, wow.
But if you're looking for value in terms of props and player props and awards, I can tell you, as as you introduced me so kindly as an avid, but I'd say degenerate sports gambler, I've put my money on a lot worse things than Angel Reese to win Rookie of the Year at 4-1.
Okay.
Wow.
No, it's really an interesting conversation because just a couple of days ago, Monica McNutt said she'll be voting based on standings. Essentially, whichever team
Is better.
has a better record. Which, like, to me, that really doesn't mean anything unless one's the worst and one's the best. Their records are not going to be much different. But she essentially said, I'm going to vote for Angel because they have a better record. The Sky has a better.
But now they might not.
I know, but
Well, it's also it's interesting too because you're talking about Caitlin who leads scoring in points amongst rookies, who leads assists amongst rookies, but on the flip side, you get Angel Reese who's leading in rebounds amongst rookies, leading in other.
Right.
So like whatever Caitlin Clark is not leading in amongst rookies, Angel Reese is. So when and there's obviously recency bias amongst voters for those awards, right? With whether it's record or whether that player has a strong finish to the season and whatnot, and you hope both of them stay healthy throughout the rest of the run here. But on the flip side of that, all it takes is a couple of good games for Angel to swing that back in her favor, where she's not necessarily winning the points race as rookie, but again she's leading in rebounds. She's driving the paint well. She's doing things intangibly that might not put her in first in the statistic rankings, but she's there in all the other statistics, and she's right behind Caitlin in everything else that she needs to be in. So again, like I said, if I don't want to go back on myself, right? But if I was a betting man, which I am, I'd say that Caitlin Clark is well deserving of being the favorite to win Rookie of the Year. But if you're looking for value on the board in terms of player props, again, I don't see why it takes $1 in a dream, they say, to throw it on Angel Reese, at 4-1.
it really is so interesting. Like, they are like opposite players. Like, Caitlin shoots her threes and assists, and Angel is always in the paint. And so they like do the complete opposite thing on the court. They have like complete opposite personalities. Like, when Caitlin got her triple-double, she was like, I don't know, it was cool. You're like, say something, like, I don't know. And then Angel has like, she's so out there and so outgoing and is in like every commercial because she just like wants to do everything. She has so much energy, and she'll like get into any argument on the court. And then the other day, everyone else started fighting, and Caitlin just like walked away because she didn't want to be involved. So they're like so opposites. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
What do you value more?
And, sometimes it is a popularity contest. You never know how those voters vote, right? As you said, like, it should be based on the court merit, but at the same time, when factors trickle in like team record and popularity and everything like that, like, the one thing I'd say, and I'll wrap up this Rookie of the Year conversation in terms of betting with this, is preseason, Caitlin Clark was a minus 3,000 favorite, and Angel Reese was at plus 650. So, albeit a little, that gap has closed.
Yeah.
We're talking about minus 3,000 to minus 700, and Angel Reese has climbed from plus 650 to 4-1. So there's a little bit of a closing of the gap there. Again, how much stock you want to put into that's your money. I'm not here to tell you what to do with it, but something to be said about the fact that we sat here months ago when Caitlin Clark was picked first overall by the Indiana Fever, saying, this is the next coming. This is the GOAT that was promised to enter the league. And, those odds have shrunk a little bit. And that's none to her fault, right? We just sung her praises and talked about all the accolades and everything she's been well-deserved getting her way. But it's a testament to how well Angel Reese is playing, too. And as you said, definitely the Bayou Barbie is known to show a little personality. She's not one to walk away and go quietly. She's going to let you know she's here, too.
Yes.
And she's very much gunning for that award as well.
Love.
You got that right. From just as I am looking on the app as well for our listeners, MVP, that looks like a race that may already be over. Asia Wilson minus 700, and the next best option, Alyssa Thomas at plus 3,100.
Oh wow!
So that may be all but settled. Brianna Stewart plus 4,000. I'm surprised to see that she's, as far behind Asia on that award. But I mean, Asia's been on a crazy run this year, so wouldn't be surprised if she goes home with that one. But certainly not as enticing as a plus 400 Angel Reese to win Rookie of the Year. I'll agree with you there. Okay, so we appreciate you talking us through that little gambler's corner. The market is, it's pretty small, like for the W. At least when I'm looking on FanDuel, that there's not a million things to bet, and I'm sure this will change as the league gets more attention. Just because that's always been a conversation with all the other sports, that you can't watch a basketball game or a baseball game with odds popping up, and you really don't see that in coverage of the WNBA. So that'll be probably something that picks up in the next couple years, I would imagine.
It has picked up a little bit. I mean, you talk about numbers. I don't show up to your show empty-handed. I can tell you right now, as of May, Caesars reported over a 500% increase.
500?
In WNBA gambling
wow.
since Caitlin Clark's debut in the first game of the season. So there's definitely interest, and it's funny, right? I think a lot of times legacy members of, and I don't want to get this podcast in the bad graces of the legacy media in the WNBA, but I think that a lot of times, there's this idea that, I've watched the game for 20 years, and you have to enjoy the game the same way I did, and I watch it for this. But that's not where we are in the world anymore. And you're getting a lot of interest in the sport because of those personalities I just mentioned, or because somebody wants to bet and they're seeing, the game being talked about, and you have, somebody who's a degenerate, maybe a little different than myself, that's never watched, a WNBA game, and one night has, Connecticut money line, and they say, I'm going to watch, and then they watch it, and then they win that bet, so then they bet on, the Lynx the next night and the next night, so and so on and so forth. And then you have somebody who now went from a non-watcher of the WNBA to a casual watcher of the W. So, again, I'm not here to tell anybody, how to watch the game or what to do, but it's funny that you bring that up and you see something like Caesars reporting, a 516% increase or whatever it was on opening night this season. It's drawing eyes to the game. It's definitely there, and it exists, and gambling is a thing that, combined with the media coverage and attention, you might get somebody who's never watched before to now become a casual viewer of the game. So,
yeah,
it's definitely something that's, obviously the trends and the numbers are showing that. Caesar Sportsbook's reporting it, so
there you go.
Yeah.
Hopefully that continues.
And ultimately, the league wants more viewership, so it's a positive.
Take as many eyes as you can get,
Right?
No matter how you can get them. Exactly.
Exactly. All right, so as we start to wind down here, just want to check: do you have any other thoughts about the W at large? Whether it's where the league's trending toward, or any further outlook about the Liberty, anything at all, like whatever you got, shoot.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the game is in a better place now than it was 5 years ago, than it was 10 years ago. I think that what the WNBA has done an excellent job of, and what the owners in the league for the most part have done a wonderful job of, obviously Mark Davis and that Aces owners group in Vegas, being one that gets well-deserved flowers for building their own practice facility, for treating this game the way that the women involved in it and the men involved in it have wanted the game to be treated for so long, and to get that national attention and to get that respect that's very well deserved, and they're starting to get it. You're seeing some ownership groups doing it. I think the game is trending in an excellent direction. And, obviously there's been a lot of discussion amongst players, some of the veterans in the league, maybe not in the moment understanding that when you have new talent like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese come in, and Cameron Brink and all these young players come in and grab that attention immediately. And you talk about a player that's maybe been in the league for 8 or 9 years and was not that center of media attention and grabbing the front cover of Sports Illustrated. And it's tough, but sometimes it's what it takes. I mean, you look at what, Michael Jordan did for the NBA in the 90s and what Tom Brady did for the NFL and so on and so forth. And sometimes it takes one person, and, if Caitlin Clark's that person, or if Angel Reese is that personality to draw that national attention to the game, I think it's ultimately a good thing, and I think they're trending in the right direction. I mean, we're talking about a league, at its inception, that was more or less just a carbon copy of what the NBA had. They shared a lot of the same brand identities as the WNBA. The WNBA franchises shared brand identities and colors and logos with the NBA teams, and shared ownership. And now you're seeing teams. Now you're seeing the league expand. You're seeing teams. Look at Toronto with Larry Tenenbaum and them, and Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment in Toronto, who are now buying a franchise in this league. It's not just because they own the Raptors; they have to.
Right.
There's interest in expanding this game and expanding the league, and we see it in Vegas. We're seeing it soon in Toronto. Maybe we'll see it in South Carolina soon enough with the emergence of that University of South Carolina program. So, I've seen a lot of discourse about that again, and I go back to the veterans of the game or the legacy media saying that they put in their hours, and there's time and a place to give them the respect, but there's also time and a place to embrace the new, and these new stars and this new talent that has joined the game, and the new eyes and the media contracts and everything like that have really brought the W very, very far, and I think will go even further, obviously, like we just said, with the expansion teams, and there's still plenty more talent to come, headlined by somebody coming into the league next year in Paige, who is a stud. And everything that we've been saying about Caitlin for the last 2 or 3 years, and Angel Reese, we're going to be saying about, Paige next season. So,
yeah, so true.
Yeah, it's continually interesting space to be a part of, to be a new fan of. Really loving being able to see things change so immediately after we got in. Like, next year's going to be crazy different. The year after that is going to be insanely different. And the year after that is going to be insanely different for different reasons. And all for the good of the sport and the good of the brand. And there's going to be more money, more attention. And that's good for the players. So we're excited about all that, and, appreciate all your insight here and what you've seen about the league growing since you've started keeping eyes on it over the last year or two. And yeah, I think it's a cool time, and it's going to be cool to see who these other expansion teams are. I know you sort of mentioned it, but like you like this idea of a South Carolina team, or like a smaller community getting an expansion team, and I know that's one of your takes. Cater to these small, passionate communities.
That's one of my offline takes, and I know you were fishing for it there when you gave me the floor there, and I didn't want to go on. I didn't want to get on my soapbox. That would have been a long rant, and I know we want to wrap this up, but I mean, you talk about the University of South Carolina, and you talk about LSU, two powerhouses in women's college basketball. Obviously, there's a team in Connecticut playing on Mohegan Sun, right? So that UConn market has been captured, but there's no team in Baton Rouge. There's no team in New Orleans. There's no team in South Carolina and Charleston. There's maybe room for a team in Des Moines, Iowa, right? As Iowa emerges to be a powerhouse in the sport, and Oregon, and so many different markets that have these fantastic women's basketball programs. I think the coolest thing, for a fan of the game, for young girls out there, is they follow a star like a Caitlin Clark from her time playing at Iowa. And then, obviously she's in Indiana, which is another Midwest team, and there's, a lot of regional fan base there, and that connection runs deep. But at the same time, say there was a Des Moines, Iowa franchise. How cool is that, if they had the first overall pick? Watch Caitlin Clark play her college basketball at Iowa and then stay there. And play in the WNBA there, or, Aaliyah Boston in South Carolina, right? Plays her college ball there and then gets drafted by, the Charleston whatever, right? And then plays, her WNBA ball there. So there's a lot of allegiance, being in the same city, in the same market as those college teams. And that could be, something down the line that the league expands to. And also, one thing I wanted to say too, and as you were saying that about, the league continually growing interest and everything like that, don't discredit the fact that this is an Olympic year. And the world is watching, and they're going to be watching the 3-on-3 tournament, and they're going to be watching the women's basketball tournament. And the U.S.
Oh,
is
yeah.
going to dominate like they do, right? But don't underestimate how good that could be for the game. As we talked about, sometimes it's hard to stream games. Sometimes it's hard to watch games unless they're on national television. So seeing these stars, seeing these players in Paris in a couple weeks from now might expose people who have not had the access to watch the game to the personalities and the players in the game. And then, maybe they try a little bit harder after the Olympics to watch, right? So that's the hope. And I think that the Olympics are a big help, in all sports for that. But I think you'll see it more so now than ever with the W.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, well, that was all great stuff. Last question here, the send-off that we always do for our guests. We haven't focused on the Liberty in a minute here, but why would you, as a fan of this Liberty team, how would you convince somebody who's new to the W, this is the team that they should be following?
Because this is the team that's going to win the W championship this year, right? So
You heard it.
listen, you don't want to be accused of being a front runner after they won, so hop on the bandwagon now because they're going. And New York sports have not had the most success in the last 15 or so years. We've seen a Super Bowl or two. We saw a World Series 15 years ago, but some people are saying that maybe the New York Liberty are the New York market's best chance at winning a professional sports championship in a very long time. So, especially if you're from this area and you haven't really given the W a chance yet, watch, pick whoever you want to pick, but you might have the chance to be a part of something pretty special when the Liberty bring home that chip. So,
And I will add that you should also be a fan of the Liberty for the best mascot in sports, Ellie.
Kristen loves Ellie.
Ellie the elephant.
Kristen loves Ellie the elephant.
She is such a queen. She is the best mascot. Name me a better mascot. There's none.
She's a queen. I'd like to see her go toe-to-toe with the Fanatic. See what happens? But as far as basketball mascots are concerned, Ellie the elephant certainly takes the cake for me. But you're right, Matt. You said this is the time. Lock, guarantee this chip. I certainly feel like I can see it for this team. So why not get in when you could be there for the team's first championship in team history?
That's big.
Could be very exciting.
Everyone else has one, so it'll be special.
It will definitely be special. Anyway, Matt, thank you so much for joining us this week on Attack the Baseline. It's been a ton of fun.
Is there anything you want to plug?
Yeah, anything you need to plug?
Not really. No, I'm just happy to be doing this with you guys. You know what I'll do? Not that you're not already know about Attack the Baseline because you're listening if you hear this, but keep watching this show. Keep listening to this show. I think you guys are doing a fantastic job joining the media for the WNBA. I think you guys are going to go places in this and stick with it, and it's been a lot of fun to listen to as not only, a friend of the program, but just as a fan in general. So if this is your first episode that you're listening to, stick with it. And, I think it'll be a good thing for you guys. So keep it up.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Plugging our show for us. We did not ask him to do that, just so you know. Anyway, all right, Matt, thank you. We'll let you go. We'll talk to you soon. And that'll do it for today's episode of Attack the Baseline. I hope you enjoyed our little tale of Tina Charles, our look at some of these rookie standouts who, not really surprising that they're rookie standouts, but cool to see records being broken the year that we start following the league. Hope you are continuing to stay excited about the season. We're just over the halfway point. We're approaching the All-Star break. Obviously, if you want to go back and look at our All-Star roster reaction, if you're curious and you don't know who's on the All-Star team, you can check that out. Again, if you want to send us an email, attackthebaseline@gmail.com. 5-star ratings and reviews, as always. Kristen, before we send it out, anything else to say to our lovely listeners for the day?
No. Don't think so.
No.
I've said a lot.
She has said a lot. She told a tale. She spun a yarn. Well, anyway, I'm looking at the baseline. What am I going to do?
Attack it.
That's right. Attack the Baseline. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you next week. Have a lovely week, and see you soon. Bye.